The pennies aren't even going out the door.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it gives me great pleasure to stand here to talk about Bill C-15. Mr. Speaker, this past weekend, while in Whitby, I had the opportunity to attend a number of events. I went to the Art Heals program at Ontario Shores, a program which supports using art as a way to heal one's challenges that they face in life. I also went to the Whitby Yacht Club and joined a reception following the blessing of the fleet. I visited Noah's Ark, an organization run by a courageously selfless woman named Mary Ann Nova, who opened up her property to children with developmental challenges. Some local high school students were also at Noah's Ark to help with a movie night, so that the children who are not normally invited to go to the fair or to prom had an opportunity to just hang out. I also went to the 105th, I'm going to correct the record because the last time I said 150th, but 105th Brooklyn Fair, and also went and helped the Ability Centre celebrate its 4th birthday. At every corner, at every event, I saw people smiling, families having fun, enjoying the weather, and celebrating together. Now, Mr. Speaker, you might ask, why did I mention all these things? Well, I mention it because when I joined government, I wanted to ensure that my role here helped to make lives better for Canadian families, much like the ones I saw this weekend. And I believe the budget does just that. And therefore, I am proud to stand and support it. Mr. Speaker, I first want to talk about what this budget does to help families and the cost of raising children. With the introduction of the Canada Child Benefit, a targeted, tax-free, progressive benefit for middle-class families and those working hard to join it, Canadian families will have more money in their pockets. Starting this July, 9 out of 10 Canadian families will open their mailbox, and in it they will find a check, providing them with a benefit that is more generous than their existing benefits. That's money that families, including many that I saw at the Brooklyn Fair, can use to provide the best possible start in life for their children. Mr. Speaker, what I saw in Whitby this weekend is not the norm for many families across this country. In a country as prosperous as Canada, no child should ever live in poverty. No child should go to school hungry or not have a safe place to call home. The Canada Child Benefit combats poverty by targeting the most support to the families in the greatest need. Mr. Speaker, this will help benefit and lift hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. As you may have heard my colleague, the Honourable Minister of Finance, say many times in this House, the CCB is the most significant social policy innovation in a generation. And I am incredibly proud to stand here and support the budget that provides for it. But, Mr. Speaker, in remembering those high schoolers who were volunteering at Noah's Ark, and as a parent of 3 children, I'm always thinking ahead and thinking about their futures. As a parliamentarian, I'm focused on our collective responsibility to make sure the next generation has every opportunity to succeed. My oldest daughter will be starting college and university next fall, and I want to ensure that all doors are open to her and all children as they head off to school or to start an apprenticeship or to join the workforce. When I was campaigning in Whitby, and increasingly since I've been elected, I've heard over and over again from people in Whitby that are concerned about youth employment and underemployment. This remains a persistent and ongoing challenge in Whitby and the broader Durham region. Mr. Speaker, we know that our country's future prosperity depends on the success of our young people, and that in order for them to be successful today, tomorrow, and in years to come, our future leaders need access to meaningful work at the start of their careers. I am so pleased to stand here today to talk about how the measures contained in Budget 2016 make important investments to make sure that our young people have these opportunities. As I stand here today, more than 77,000 young people from coast to coast to coast are employed through the Canada Summer Jobs Program. This is more than double the number who were found placements in 2015. In my riding alone, more than 400 students will be employed at 68 small businesses, nonprofit organizations, and civic institutions across Whitby. These young people will spend their summer learning valuable skills and gaining important experience while assisting these businesses and organizations better serve our community. I want to talk about one organization in particular that is participating in the Canada Summer Jobs Program, the Ability Centre. I would be remiss if I did not mention that the vision for this centre came to fruition under the leadership of the former Member of Parliament for Whitby, the late Jim Flaherty. The centre, which provides programs and services including sports, fitness, arts, and life skills opportunity for people of all ages and of all levels of ability, is one organization which is receiving funding this year. I had a chance to hear from the Executive Director on how important this program is to their success and how much of a difference it will make for families in Whitby. He told me that through this Canada Summer Jobs Program, the Ability Centre was able to hire 26 students this year who will work a combined 7,000 hours in service to a diverse population. These students will assist the Ability Centre provide programming support while they receive on-the-job experience that will help them to continue their studies and to look to enter the workforce. While we are on the topic of young people, Mr. Speaker, I want to touch on how proud I am that this budget does so much to support students and ensure that post-secondary education is available and affordable. Budget 2016 enhances the Canada Student Grants by increasing the amounts by 50%, thus allowing close to 250,000 low to middle income students access to funds for higher education. My riding is home to the Whitby campus of Durham College, and I have heard how pleased they are with the increased resources that their students will receive in order to support their academic endeavors. And Mr. Speaker, if you want to see how talented these young people are, I invite you to visit my office on the Hill or my constituency office, and you will see their artwork proudly displayed. Mr. Speaker, the last point I want to make here today is about the historic investment we are making in public transit infrastructure. Many residents of my riding travel to Toronto and other parts of the GTA for work each day. I have talked to them about their long commutes and the many hours they spend each week idling in traffic or the time they are spending from the bus or on the train. This time they spend commuting, is time they are away from their homes and their families. This budget is investing billions of dollars in public transit and infrastructure over the coming years, an investment that will result in more school pickups and drop-offs, family dinners, and bedtime stories for families in Whitby and the Durham region. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2016 will make a real difference in the lives of Canadians from coast to coast to coast. It is a plan to get the Canadian economy moving again, and while taking real action to support the middle class and those working hard to join it. I am very proud to stand here today and support it. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. The honourable member for South Surrey White Rock.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate hearing about her community. I do have a question as it relates to the small business tax, and we know that the Prime Minister said small business is just a haven for the rich, and the promise was to reduce, during the election, reduce the small business tax from 10.5 to 9, and I'm just wondering why that promise was broken.
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the small business tax rate was maintained at 10.5%. And Mr. Speaker, before getting this job in as the representative for Whitby, I owned a small business. And I knew that in order for my business to be successful and grow, I needed to have customers in the door. That was the only way my business could grow. And what this budget has done was put more money in the pockets of middle-class families across the country. And not only that, Mr. Speaker, we've also made an investment in digital digital infrastructure, ensuring that businesses not only have the capability of gathering customers domestically here in Canada, but they'll be able to open up their doors to customers around the world. So again, this budget really does focus on middle-class families who are business owners and supporting our small to medium-sized enterprises.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Kootenay, Columbia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I very much appreciated the focus on youth and employment and the future of youth. One of the questions that I have the hardest time to answer when I'm speaking to school groups is about the future for youth, given a $30 billion deficit this year, projected another $30 billion next year, and over $700 billion total debt facing kids moving into the future. So if a student asks the honourable member for advice on how am I going to deal with all of this $700 billion debt in the future that you're handing off to me, I would appreciate hearing what her answer is.
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister has said a number of times that we are going to move towards a balanced budget responsibly. Right now, we are in a period of very stagnant growth in our country, and one of the ways, and I speak to students often in my riding, I speak to fifth grade students at Jack Minor, and they ask me about our budget and about the debt, and I say to them, you know, right now, we need to do something to help our economy, to kickstart our economy and help it start to move. And one of the ways in which to do that, I give them a small course in economics, is by making investments. And we're not just making investments haphazardly, Mr. Speaker. We are making very specific investments in public transit, in social infrastructure, and we're doing that in a green and sustainable way, and that will help generations for years and years to come.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Guelph.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and through you to the honourable member, and thank her for her presentation. The investments in infrastructure could have some effects on small business, the businesses that are actually performing the infrastructure changes. I wonder if the member could comment on the impact on small business and maybe the multiplier effect that might result in giving us some economic growth that we haven't seen for years.
The honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for the question. The infrastructure investment not only helps, of course, the businesses that are going to be providing the services, but also, Mr. Speaker, through ensuring that we have proper public transit, we're looking into rapid transit, we're looking for innovative ways to ensure that that investment is done in a green and sustainable way. It also helps to reduce traffic, to reduce the burden of getting to those small businesses, to allow those customers into the door. So I think that this budget has really taken a comprehensive look at how to get the Canadian economy going again by putting money in people's pockets, by having strategic investments in infrastructure and allowing those customers to get to those businesses. Thank you very much.
Resuming